Joining us now is Republican strategist Allie Bartlett and Democratic strategist Nicole Brener-Schmitz. Thank you, ladies, both for joining us this morning. Allie, I'd like to start with you. As Brooke laid out there on Truth Social, Trump claimed the U.S. needs Greenland for national security purposes and implied Canada would thrive as the 51st state, as the United States of America included in that. What do you believe is the intention behind these comments, Allie? Is this a strategy to get leaders to the negotiating table? And either way, do you see any potential risks with this type of language?
Yeah, so one thing I always like to remind people when we're talking about President Trump in particular is that since 2016 and maybe even before that, we know who Donald Trump is. We know who he is as a candidate. We know who he is as a president. And we know his priority, which is that it is to put America first. So yes, to answer your question directly, what he is doing here all has strategy behind it. He wants to bring world leaders back to the negotiating table to put America in the strongest position that we can be in, entering into a very, very complex landscape. He's inheriting one of the most complex foreign policy landscapes to ever exist. And so going into 2025, Donald Trump is seeking to put America first in every way possible. And that's exactly what you're seeing with these tweets.
So, Nicole, I'll turn to you. In terms of the strategy that was laid out there, what do you make of it? Do you think it's a smart move? And do you believe it could bring these parties to the negotiating table?
I mean, look, I don't think it was a great move to just come out that aggressive. I mean, it's mocking. It's saying we're going to take it. It's saying that things are illegal that have been negotiated in treaties. The reality is that, with the Greenland, there is possibility of new shipping routes and Russia being there having that. So that is a negotiation to have. But we are a part of NATO, as is Denmark, who controls the Greenland foreign policy and works in concert with them on how they control. That's where we go and have those conversations, because that is what NATO is established for. With Panama, I mean, I think this is really more about reducing some shipping costs that are happening. I think that this is a big throw out to actually start into negotiations around what the cost is of some things there, possibly going back to if Democrats are looking into these, tax issues that were brought up years ago of what the president's business does through Panama, but again, he really ran on this idea that he was going to bring peace to the world. He was going to calm down all of these, escalations that, quote, happened under the Biden administration. And what we're seeing going into it is a threat of a whole lot of chaos and just an aggressive move into places that we haven't even been focusing on. So, I think that Allie was correct, though. We know Donald Trump, who he is. This is exactly the kind of behavior that he exhibits, and it's not a surprise that this is how it started.
Well, some of these strategies have been effective in the past. We'll see how this plays out. We'll certainly have a front row seat to what will happen next. Nicole, I do want to ask you also, President Biden, I think it's noteworthy, he's wrapping up these final weeks of his presidency with little fanfare from his very own party. What is the strategy for Democratic lawmakers as Trump prepares to take office in less than a month? Are you foreseeing a leadership shakeup?
I mean, look, we're not going to have a big leadership shakeup. They've already had their elections in Congress. We've seen who's leading the DGA. There is a DNC chair that's coming up. That'll have some conversations about where the party is going. We saw Senator Schumer, who will be the minority leader in the Senate, talk about how they're going to try to use the judiciary to fight back against what the Trump administration is possibly moving forward from what we've seen they've said they're going to do, particularly on the domestic front. But look, it's not a secret. The Democratic Party had big losses. I don't think it benefits the Democratic Party to sugarcoat that or try to pretend that this wasn't a horrible election for them. They lost control. They lost in every demographic. We need to take stock as a party. What are we about and what are we trying to help? And if it is working people, why are we now being perceived as a party of the elite, of the, academia? We need to have a conversation and a real come to Jesus in our party and figure out what are we going to be about going forward? How are we going to communicate that to the American people? And a big part of that is going to be fighting things that we don't think are correct that are happening in the Trump administration. But it's a much bigger deep dive that needs to happen right now. But the reality is we do have our leaders elected, but we don't have that. This is the person, this is our face, this is who is running the show the way the Republicans, frankly, have, whether you like it or not, in a Donald Trump.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.